I brought contraband into prison as officer. Repeatedly. And I'm saying that publicly because most people have no idea what contraband actually means. Before you start crying in the comments, no, I was not corrupt. No, I wasn't smuggling in phones. I wasn't bringing in drugs. But I did bring things through the gate that technically should not have been there. And if one of those things ended up in prisoners' hands, I could have been in serious trouble. So before I explain what I brought, answer me this. Do you think prison staff should be searched every single day? And I don't just mean officers, I mean civilian staff, contractors, healthcare, education, management, everyone. And do you honestly think you, as a person, would be strong enough to say no? If prisoner give you a sub story about an ill family member, offered you money, or threatened your family? Because contraband in prison is not just drugs, phones, or drones. It's control. Okay, let's break it down. So when people hear contraband, they think spice, phones, weapons, drones, visitors, packages over the wall, corrupt stuff. And yes, all of that exists, obviously. But before we get into that dark stuff, you need to understand the ridiculous stuff first. Because once you understand why a biscuit can be contraband, you understand why prisons are so strict about everything else. And I want your answers in the comments now, before I explain it. What do you think is the biggest weak spot? Is it staff? Drones? Visits? Post? Prisoners coming back from court or hospital? Or is the real problem that prison is basically full of pressure points and the system is always one step behind? But let's start with the biscuit. An officer brings biscuits into the office. The wing cleaners are cleaning and they go, "These look proper nice. Can I please have one?" And then the officer says, "Yeah, go on, have one." It sounds harmless, right? It's a good working relationship. A bit of kindness. Wrong. In prison terms, that prisoner has received something that they were not authorized to have. And the problem is not the biscuit. The problem is what that biscuit could create. Other prisoners notice. Someone else wants one. Someone asks, "Why did he get that?" Someone thinks that prisoner is special. Someone tests that boundary again. And suddenly, it's not just a biscuit. It's favoritism. It's leverage. It's professional boundary issue. And yes, I know how ridiculous that sounds. But in prison, only is where problem can start. It's only a biscuit. Only a favour. Only a message. Only once. And then suddenly it's not just only anymore. Because contraband doesn't just mean dangerous things. It just means unauthorised. Not allowed through the gate. Something that's not risk assessed, not accounted for, and not controlled. Or something staff brought in for themselves that ends up in prisoners' hands. And that's where I come in. I regularly brought a needle and thread to stitch prisoners' clothes. I didn't pass it around. I stitched it myself. Because if someone ripped a tracksuit and couldn't afford a new one, or put a hole in brand new pillowcase, I could stitch it. Because on a human level, it felt ridiculous not to. A tiny repair saved money, soaked waste, and kept someone decent. And in some prisons, prisoners can order needle and thread on canteen anyway. The bigger problem is, most of them cannot sew. I was basically the wing's nana, stitching people's pillowcases and trackies. But it was still highly frowned upon. And I, in a way, understand why. A needle is still a sharp item. Thread could still be misused, I guess. It was still unauthorized. My intention was decent, but prison security does not run on intention. It runs on control. That is that horrible balance in prison. Something can be kind and still be unauthorized. Something can be really practical and create a decency, but also create risk. Something can solve a problem and still cross a boundary. Same with cleaning products. As officers, we used to bring in wipes, air fresheners, things to clean the desk, stuff from kitchen area and fridges. Not because anyone was smuggling, because we were not given proper cleaning supplies by the prison. And the cleaning products that we did get inside prison could barely clean a metal surface, never mind a burnt on grease or a fridge that needed disinfecting. To the public, to any one of you, that sounds normal. Your workplace is filthy and you bring in wipes. But to prison, that's an unauthorised item that I've personally been caught with and got disciplined for. Technically, the system is right, because a cleaning product is not just a cleaning product inside prison. Who brought it in? Where is it stored? Who can access it? Could it be misused? Could it be passed on? Could it become a favour? This is how prison security thinks. And then there is the weekend fry-up. Officers would regularly bring in bacon, sausages, eggs, bread, whatever, to do breakfast before unlock. No, obviously not for prisoners, for staff. Because it's the weekend, you are on a long shift. Sometimes that fry-up is literally the only morale in that place. Everyone does it. Everyone knows it happens. But technically, unauthorised. Because that food came through the gate. It's not prison issued. And it's not accounted for as prison supplies. And if a slice of bacon ends up in prisoner's hand, now you have a problem. Outside prison, bacon is just bacon. Inside prison, bacon in the wrong hands becomes, where did he get that? What else are you giving him? What does he do for you? And that is funny until it is not. Because prison can turn ordinary things into security problems very quickly. Food, wipes, air freshener, needle and thread, biscuits, a shortcut, a favour, and a bit of kindness. And most of it, it's generally not malicious. But once unauthorised items move from staff control into prisoners' hands, the meaning changes. And thankfully, that never happened to me. Prison control was everything. And that is where it gets darker. If staff can casually bring in small unauthorised items for innocent reason, like chewing gum, what happens when someone brings something in for serious reason? Not bacon, not biscuits, not desk cleaning wipes. But when it's drugs, a tiny phone, a SIM card, or a charger for a phone, a weapon. I have worked with officers who were caught bringing things into prison. And in my experience, it was never small. And it was not just harmless. And it started with just one mistake. But it never stayed that way. When staff bring drugs or phones into prison, they are not just moving an item. They are shifting power on the wing. They are feeding debt, intimidation, violence. They put decent staff at risk. They put prisoners at risk. And they hand control to the wrong people. Now, let me be clear, okay? Most staff are not corrupt. They walk in through the gate and do the most difficult job in a difficult system. I was never approached to bring things in. I was never even groomed like that. I think prisoners just knew I could be kind, but I had very strong boundaries. No favoritism, no secret messages, no private arrangements. The minority of officers that do get involved can cause massive damage. And it's not just officers. It's civilian staff, contractors, healthcare, education, admin, works department, management. Organised prisoners do not care what job title is on your lanyard. They look at access. They look for opportunity. And they look for weakness, and they can spot one like that. Who can be groomed? Who can be pressured? Who can be bought? And staff corruption only does not start with, can you bring in a load of drugs for me, boss? It starts very small. Can you just pass this message to my mum? Can you tell someone outside something for me? Can you do me one favour? Can you look the other way just once? Then that sentence changes. You've already done something for me, boss. Something that I know you shouldn't have. If you don't do this, we'll drop you in it. We'll tell security. We know where your family live. That is where a small favour becomes a trap. In prison, the first favour is not the favour. It's a test. And if you think what I'm saying sounds dramatic, look at Lee Davis. He was a prison officer at Lancaster Farms, and in 2010, he was convicted after smuggling cannabis and mobile phones into the prison. He later said in an interview that he had only been searched twice in 3 years, and that after the first package, it had a snowball effect. By the fourth package, he said it was purely about the money and adrenaline. This is how fast it can move, and that is why staff security cannot be theatre. I'll be honest, in my old jail between 2020 and 2025 when I left, I can remember staff being searched maybe 3 or 4 times in total. And from memory, I got searched only once with dogs. Most of these searches seem to happen around security audits, funnily enough, inspections, or when the prison needed to look like the staff searching was happening properly. That's not security, it's a performance. If staff are rude, staff searching has to be real, consistent, unpredictable, and apply to everyone with access. But searching staff is not magic either. Metal is easier. A metal detector might pick it up. A search might find it. Dogs might indicate depending on what it is. But tiny plastic phones, non-metallic items, substances that don't look obvious, short of body scanners, some things are very difficult to detect. So when people say, just search them, I get it. But the answer is proper investment and better searching, more dogs, better intelligence, better vetting, better corruption prevention. And I don't mean a 20-minute PowerPoint in training. Better whistleblowing, better support for staff being groomed or threatened, and real consequences when people cross that line. And even if every member of staff said no, prisons will still have another massive problem. Drones. Drones these days are not some rare toy over the wall issue anymore. Between April 24 and March 25, there were about 2,000 drone incidents at prisons. And these kinds of drones were dropping drugs and weapons into high security prisons, which was then a threat to national security, especially because those prisons can hold terrorists and organized crime bosses. So again, I'll ask you, how do we stop that? More netting, better windows, drone detection, signal blocking, better police operation around prisons, more perimeter patrols, more staff. We already know that that's an issue. Or maybe it's all of it at the same time. Because drones try to bypass the normal human routes. A visitor comes through visits. Staff come through the gate. Post goes through the whole process. Prisoners returning from court or hospital are searched and obviously supervised. But drones don't care about a gate. Someone outside coordinates with someone inside. And once it lands, the same economy takes over. Debt, fear, violence, control. That is the real issue. A phone in prison is never just a phone. And yes, some prisoners will use illicit phones for reasons that sound innocent. Family, partners, kids. They've run out of credit or they are on basic. They are struggling and they want to hear a familiar voice. And on a human level, I understand that fully. But I will not be softening the darker side. That same phone can threaten and access victims, contact witnesses, order drugs, arrange assaults, control debts, intimidate families, film inside prison, or keep organized crime running from behind the bars. Prisons cannot manage risk based on the nicest possible explanations. They have to manage what that phone could be used for. And drugs are the same. It's not just someone getting high and being chilled for the officers. It's debt. It's bullying, it's violence, medical emergencies, staff alarms, families pressured for money. Contraband does not stay neatly inside one cell. It spreads. And often the person paying the highest price is not the person making the money. It's the scared prisoner in debt. It's their family being threatened. It's the victim being contacted. The vulnerable person being used. The decent officer walking onto a dangerous wing. or the staff member whose whole career is destroyed because they let one boundary slip. So yes, I brought contraband into prison as an officer, but not drugs, not phones, not weapons. Unauthorized items that were practical, harmless, and even kind. And that is why this topic is so complicated, because contraband is not always evil. Sometimes it's just human. So tell me this, what is the biggest weak spot? And before I wrap this up, hi, my name is Dagna and I was a prison officer in the UK for almost 6 years. I've stood on the inside of the system and I've seen what the headlines miss. This is Inside Out Justice. It's where we say the quiet parts out loud.